On this episode of Screen Geeks, we're going to talk all about the upcoming MOTU Revelation. We're 1 week away. I had it playing. Sorry. Technical issues starting out. I'm a dummy. Anywho, hello, everybody, and welcome to Screen Geeks. My name is Jay, and with me, as always, is Ralph. Ralph, how you doing, my good sir?
I'm always with you. Always.
It's true.
This is not a rare occasion where we show up online. We're here all the time.
It's true.
Every Thursday.
Every Thursday. Whether you or not, it has been forever since we have done a Screen Geeks. But took a few weeks off. I was out of town. But now we are back, and we are only a little less than a week away from MOTU Revelation dropping on Netflix not this Friday, but next Friday. The first 5 episodes. So instead of us doing Screen Geeks on Thursday, we are going to do it on Friday at 9 p.m. So again, Friday, 9 p.m. so we can talk about all 5 episodes. So that means at some point, Ralph and I will have been able to watch all 5 episodes. We're going to talk about the entire thing right here on youtube.com/geekdadlife. So make sure to hit the subscribe button. And the reason why it was a really bad attempt by me, I thought it would have been really cute, but it turned out to be lame, was to have the video up here. To make sure to show you to hit like. If you haven't done it yet, hit that like button for this video. It helps on the YouTube rankings and all that stuff. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, click the subscribe button and the bell icon to make sure you're here to chat MOTU Revelation, the first half of season 1 next week, which is pretty darn exciting. Let's go to the chat. Already a lot of people chatting it up. Dartherian, good evening, Screen Geeks. Screen Geeks. Good to see you, Dartherian. Good journey, my MOTU friends. J Mac is here. Michael Palmer, Chris Nolan. Screens, I like that. Hopefully Revelation. Let's see. John Rhodes is here. All music fan. Wow, I thought this would be a G.I. Joe night based on the reveals today, but fine with me. Super 7 with their big G.I. Joe Ultimates series reveal. John and I talked about today. We will be talking about those on this week's Toy Geeks, so be on the lookout for that. Of course, Sunday at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So absolutely big reveal from Super 7 today. Ralph has trouble with leg days. I don't even know what that means. Oh, yes. Poor Tonto Ted. I'm sure we'll touch on some Joes. I really dig them. It looks, I don't know. They look really, really good. Safe for Snake Eyes. I get it's animated series style, but that's a whole nother thing. Mark 44 Prime is here. The Great Gambino is here. John Rhodes, Geek Dad Life is the place to be. All caps, thumbs up. Couldn't agree with you more, John Rhodes. But again, I guess I'm biased since it is my channel. But anywho, all right, Ralph. We're a week away from MOTU Revelation. The full trailer dropped a week ago while I was out of town. I watched it. Did you watch the trailer?
Yes, I watched the trailer and I watched the Kevin Smith sort of post-trailer thoughts.
What were your thoughts of the final trailer, the full trailer?
I mean, it looks cool.
I mean, come on.
That's Eternia. And it's got the playset.
I know. You got the 3 towers, Grayskull Tower, the Central Tower, and Snake Mountain Tower with the monorail.
Right.
So pretty dope. Pretty pumped. But yes, thoughts on this trailer.
Well, the way, just based on the trailer and based on what Kevin Smith has been talking about, this looks like Netflix dumped every single He-Man toy from the 80s on his lawn, and he wanted to incorporate all of it.
Yeah, pretty much. I think we saw Stinkor for the first time in this trailer, which is pretty awesome.
Right. He looks great.
I'm sure it's Tila, and I can't really spec out the other person in this battle. But they have like gas masks to fight him, which is awesome.
Right. The animation's cool. I think it's not super fluid. I know that was like a complaint that people have with like the show Invincible, but it still has that thing where it's sort of limited animation, but they hit really cool poses. So it's almost like you'll be able to like pose your action figures the same way with each shot. This whole thing with the splitting of the swords, like all of it for me feels like, I don't know, 1982, 83. When did they first start coming out?
The toy 82, right? And the whole splitting of the swords was a part of the original comic book, the mini comics, and the toy play feature, because Skeletor had a half, He-Man had a half, and you had to put,
and it could unlock Grayskull,
to open up Grayskull and the powers of Grayskull. I don't this element.
Yeah, I don't think it was in the original 80s series. I'm not sure about the series that came out in like the 2000s. But
originally, so the Four Horsemen, when they designed the sword or the power sword for the 2000X series, they did actually incorporate the two halves of the power sword, but they ended up dropping that when the series actually came out. But the results were still there because Skeletor had their design for the two halves of the power sword. And then the mechanized power sword that the 2000X He-Man had was actually supposed to be kind of a replacement because Skeletor had the actual power sword. They kind of dropped that storyline, and I think they kind of incorporate it back into classics a little bit. But this is the first time that the kind of the two halves of the power sword story is actually officially incorporated into the show. So I really dug that, and you can see it here in the trailer. He-Man seems to split it, and that's maybe what takes the power away or whatever, because Skelegod or however that is all going to play out is a big factor there as well. And we see what I assume to be a really old sorceress. So
right.
But yeah, so I really dig that point, and I love your statement there that it's like they just gave him all the toys and he just kind of poured them out in the lawn and he's just like making his story.
Well, one of the things he brought up was that there was a character in the trailer, and I'm trying to remember which one, had never been in the animated series. It was a toy back in the 80s.
You're talking about Faker?
Not even Faker. There was
Merman. No, Stinker is in the original series. But yeah, Faker, to this degree,
right,
blue Faker, because he's gonna be blue underneath all of this, wasn't in the Filmation series. Actually, a blue Faker hasn't been in any series yet, which is pretty cool.
So that's awesome. It's fun to be able to go back and make those toys relevant. It's what I've been clamoring for this whole time with the Mandalorian by making the mini rigs canon.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty much
not with Green Lantern, but it looks like Kevin Smith and company. Yeah, this dude.
Roboto.
Yeah, I believe he mentioned he wasn't in the original series, never been in any of the animated series. This is his first time. But I like that they're doing that. I like that it's like we've had these toys for almost 40 years. And now we get to actually see what they do, what they sound like. And that's what I'm excited about. If you go back a little bit, I don't know the name of these because I haven't played with them since I was a kid. But they're the black vehicles with the spinning.
Rotan.
Yeah, those things. My friend had one of those. I thought that was the coolest toy ever. It would roll and the blade would spin.
And what I love is it's just straight up the toy, and I think John and I talked about that on Toy Geeks. but yeah, I think this, but also the scene showing Triclops, I guess, is leading his own cult post the apocalypse or whatever, which I think is a lot of fun. But yeah. Oh, and I guess they're talking about Scareglow, who is in it a little bit later. But yeah, I dig what I'm seeing here. I dig the action. I know there's still this kind of underlying controversy that Tila's main driving storyline here, or her basically trying to set everything right.
Okay,
but
that's fine.
She's a central character in the original series, and the tale of Tila's a big deal. What I do dig, so I have the Revelation figures right here. I got them all. Thank you to Brad Brooks for finding them for me. So my video review of the Revelation toys will be up tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. But Skeletor, the Skeletor figure, came with this accessory, and I was like, "What the heck is this? A wand or something?"
Right.
So I was like, "What is this?" So it was cool to see that in the trailers. Must be something he uses to, I don't know, cause mischief or whatever. So dig that. And really, from it being a trailer, and yes, Scareglow is here. So that's what he's offering. Scareglow was never featured.
Look at that shot of Skeletor hitting the wall. There's like one frame where it looks like the action figure pose with the short squatty legs. Like, go on there. It's just like he's like there. Classic pose. Yeah, I dig it. I think the action looks cool. I'm hoping so. I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I started watching He-Man and the Masters of the Universe again. It was on Netflix at the time. I watched like maybe 20 episodes,
and
then it got taken off of Netflix, and I wasn't able to pick it back up anywhere else. I'm hoping. I don't think I'm going to have a problem when this comes out, but I'm afraid I'm going to be lost. I'm afraid I'm missing out on almost 40 years of He-Man lore, but I'm assuming.
Well, and this is
the
shaping staff. I completely forgot about the shaping staff, to be honest, because I don't really like the Filmations cartoon. I'm a much bigger fan of the mini comics. I still read the mini comics to this day, whereas the Filmations cartoon, like a lot of Filmations cartoons, aren't very watchable today as an adult. At least
it's a slog.
It's
definitely a slog.
Not the best. I appreciate them in their they exist, but I much prefer the 2000X series, the mini comics. Even as a kid, I preferred the mini comics to Filmation.
The thing that was fun about watching the Filmation series again is that you could tell when it was time to showcase a new toy on the series, and all of a sudden you just see like new characters, new vehicles, and you just be like, okay, now I'm into this, because I totally forgot about that rocket sled or the tank. There was just all kinds of just like, they were commercials, and so they weren't really written insanely well. They had to essentially like point A to point B, make sure you get these vehicles and these characters in to sell the toys.
Filmation was notorious for animation on the cheap, right? In the same cells over and over again, flipping. I mean, just and using sequences over and over again. That was Filmation's strategy. Was animation on the cheap, and so the byproduct of that is the Filmation's He-Man and the Master of the Universe. I think was limited in what it could accomplish, and that's where I think 2006's He-Man did a really good job of really digging into the lore and the mythology and all that kind of stuff. And so again, the production quality of this and what we're seeing, another story can be told with a little bit more of a focus on maybe a longer, broader, connected story that Filmation, which again, it's a kid. Back then, a lot of people approach kid shows like, it's a kid show. They'll watch anything. Just put it out there. So I do know there is nostalgia for it, but for me, far more connected to the mini comics and the toys than the animated series versus, shows like, I know you love Mask, and you can still
Mask is well done.
For me, Real Ghostbusters, I know this is my number one, but it holds up. Especially the first few seasons that were run by J. Michael Straczynski. There are 80s cartoons that I do think are rewatchable today. But
Mask holds up. I blasted through the first season. There's either 2 seasons or 3 seasons where whatever the last season is garbage. It's like they're like racing. It's just racing shows.
Scott, a good question here. Wondering if my 8-year-old would watch this or the other version, the more kid-like one. When does that one come out? I don't think we have a date for that yet. I know Zach and I plan to watch this because Zach has really gotten into Masters of... Zach is 7. Zach has really gotten into the MOTU Origins figures that I have. Again, he doesn't know anything. He hasn't watched any of the cartoons. He just sees these toys that his dad has, and he really likes it just shows the endearing quality of the toys and the play features that they figured out 40 years ago, that my kid, who has no nostalgic connection to He-Man, Castle Grayskull, Skeletor whatsoever, wants to pick up the toys and play with them. Landshark, Battle Cat, the castle, like all of it, and play and act out stories just based on the toys alone. So I think that shows what's truly special about it. And again, I think this show, bearing all the controversies around it, but I'm always against people dumping on something before it's even out yet. Like, if you watch it and you hate it, then so be it, right. But kind of pre-hating something based on rumors or maybe somebody else's opinion of something, maybe they saw it before everybody else.
Michael Keaton, Heath Ledger, those kinds of things.
Or freaked out about Heath Ledger, Michael. You're absolutely right. Like watching the old, Entertainment Weekly when they announced Michael Keaton and talking about how all the fans are really upset about Michael Keaton being Batman. Now it's like everyone thinks Michael Keaton was the best Batman.
Right.
And I remember, and I vividly remember how many people were upset when they cast Heath Ledger as the Joker. And then you saw that. I remember seeing the trailer for the first time. And did we get the trailer after he passed? Or
I don't remember
the timeline there. But I remember we saw the trailer. I was like, "Oh my god, amazing!"
Right.
But there's the we're fans because we're fanatical. That's part of the word, which means like we probably love it too much, which is fine with geeks here. But I think we also have to have a bit of, let's put a bit of geek filter on here and realize we have to see it first, and then you can hate it. That's
now. In the chat, it was brought up that there's the sort of kids version. I think Scott mentioned that. Does that mean this is an adult version? Are we going to have, do you know what the rating is on this? Like, as far as it
is, it's funny. There's an article that I had here that I did want to talk about because he did an interview with Gizmodo, Rob Ricken from Gizmodo. And it's funny because he was talking about, here, I don't actually have it here. Let me pull it up. A fun interview on Gizmodo where with Kevin Smith. And, where is it here? I have to pull it up quick enough.
Because in the video that it came out the same time as the trailer, Kevin Smith did mention that characters would get killed.
So rather than trying to reinvent it, we embrace it wholeheartedly. However, the characters are going to deal with things they never dealt with before, losing a loved one, betrayal, abuse, trauma, like the big ticket adult issues. However, the whole time we were making this show, we referred to it as adult animation. Then I saw Amazon Prime's Invincible, and I was like, we're not adult animation. We're a kid's show. So I think, it is dealing with heavier themes than the Filmation cartoon ever did.
Wait, well, I mean,
not Invincible.
The Filmation show there was no grit to it at all. There was no sort of controversy or adult themes. It was flat out a kid's show. The thing I'm interested about is the music. And a big part of the Filmation show for me was the music, especially since you have Orko was up there. Orko's theme, which is really goofy. And for those of you that don't know, Haim Saban and Shuki Levy did the music for the Filmation show. And Haim Saban went on to do Power Rangers. So Orko's theme sounds like Bulk and Skull's music. If you've seen that, it was very, very, very goofy music in that show. And I'm really curious to see. I'm actually going to look it up right now. If you want to vamp for a bit.
Sure. I'll post some comments here. Dartherian, I learned my lesson pre-hating Transformers animated based on the character designs. Ends up being my second favorite Transformers series. Brandon Brooks says it's NC-17. It is not, even though Kevin Smith, his language can push a film into that category. That is not going to be the case for this show. Dartherian says, I'll be disappointed if there are no lessons at the end. I think we've talked about that before.
In that video, he actually does mention the composer, Bear McCreary, who did Walking Dead. And also, he did Godzilla King of the Monsters?
Yes, I was saying more of Battlestar Galactica. Bear McCreary did Galactica.
So I unless we get a nod to Orko's theme, I think the music's going to be played pretty straight, like an action epic, which might be pretty cool.
I think it'll be great, especially Bear McCreary. I think he's done a great job. I loved, out of all of the Battlestar Galactica series, my favorite music bit they did, and it might seem hokey now, but, and this is, I guess, a spoiler, but there's a big revelation in Battlestar Galactica. I can't remember which season it is, but like certain people you thought weren't Cylons or Cylons. That's as spoiler as I'll get. But the way they do it is by unveiling All Along the Watchtower being this kind of activating song or whatever. But he had this really cool orchestral heavy metal, not heavy metal, but like hard rock version of All Along the Watchtower, which I always really dug that he did. So that type of very rock and roll heavy is something I think Bear McCreary does really well. So I think that's a nice pairing here for this show. And I think it does bear well to what this show could be. Also, in terms of the controversies or pre-controversies of this show, Battlestar Galactica not only changed races, changed genders of popular characters, and Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, is amazing. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. And there was a lot of pushback when it was found out that they kind of changed genders and races of different characters. And again, I think it's just it's hard to realize they're going to do something different with this thing that you are a big fan of.
Right.
But I think it's also important to realize that it doesn't change the original thing you're a fan of. It's still there. It's not, nobody deleted it.
Right.
It still exists.
Did the reboot of RoboCop ruin RoboCop for anybody?
No.
No, RoboCop's still awesome.
RoboCop's still amazing. And
yeah, RoboCop 3 ruined it.
I would say RoboCop 2 was also pretty rough. That was Miller wrote that one, right? And it was, I remember I was like, ugh.
And Irving Kershner directed it, the director of Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
What happened?
Anywho. I get Jay Muse is playing Stinkor. That's awesome. We have CAF in the house. Good to see you, CAF. Hung Wen, one thing about He-Man was the toys came out before the show. Kids were able to use their imagination to make up their own stories even before the show came out. And I think that's that is what makes He-Man in the Masters of the Universe enduring is it was a toy line first. It came out before regulations were lifted where toys could be cartoons. And it had to be a successful toy line without any cartoon media to drive it.
Right.
They came out with the mini comics and they kind of set up these stories and they made toys to try to get kids to want to play with them with no media connection, no movies, no TV show.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, they made a toy line that any kid can like pick up and play with and not need any media to tie into it. Like you look at Skeletor, okay, that's the bad guy. Look at He-Man, that's the good guy. And let's battle it out, And I think it's such they focus so much on the play side of it. And I think Scott Knight likes to say toyetic properties of it. And that is what's endearing of it. I think you said that too, Ralph. Like they're just playing with the toys and coming up with your own stories. Masters does I think out of all of the 80s toy lines, I think Masters stands on its own as a toy line. And there is other media things, but I think it's the most out of all of them stands as a toy line. Maybe G.I. Joe could be there as well. But yeah, I think it really kind of stands alone.
I wonder if Zach already has an idea of what his story is.
I think
in his head.
Yeah.
And if he's going to be let down by a show. You know what I mean?
God. Will that be a full circle moment with my son watching? It's like, that Skeletor shouldn't do that. I do it like this. Oh my God.
But luckily for him, he does get the Eternia playset in the show, which I don't think was in the series, in the Filmation series. I don't remember it. The Eternia playset with the monorail, was that ever in the series?
No.
Yeah. So at least he'll have some familiar looking set pieces. I mean, obviously Grayskull's going to be Grayskull.
I let my kids play with most of my toys, but Eternia, I do not let him play with Eternia. There's a few that I don't. Most of the old play sets I don't. So USS Flag, the problem is they've gotten so brittle. Eternia, I did let him play with my old Grayskull, but now there's a new Grayskull. He prefers to play with that one. The kids they have their own Firehouse play set. But for the most part, they also have their own Turtle Sewer play set. They have their own. They have a Night Raven and a. I don't know. They have a few GI Joe planes and stuff like that. So they have, a decent amount of toys. But Eternia play set, it is too rare, too valuable. It stays right there.
So they'll be excited to see that.
Sure, absolutely. Exactly. New G.I. Joe cartoon has been announced. That's awesome. CAF. If you missed it, I think it came in a little bit later, but John and I will definitely be talking about a lot of the G.I. Joe reveals days, so the Super 7 G.I. Joe Ultimates on Toy Geeks this week. Some really, really cool news. Anywho, so yes, I really dig the trailer. And again, if anybody hates the show after they watch it, by all means. But there is one other interview that I wanted to talk about on the show. So in this, and this isn't a spoiler, so to speak, because I didn't say what it was, but the person that wrote or did this interview had already seen the 5 episodes. And I think there is a bit of a review embargo on the show. They'll probably release the reviews closer to when it premieres next week. But he says there's this cliffhanger at the end of 5 that was like, oh my God, that was a big swing for the series to take. And, almost was ticked off that it ended with this big something happening, and we're not going to find out the resolution to that until we get to the next 5 episodes. But Ralph, given that, like, what do you think could be at the level of, oh my God, that was a big swing to not have an answer to at the end of these 5 episodes? What do you think?
I mean, the biggest swing would be He-Man gets cut in half and dies. That's that has to be the biggest swing.
Sure, that's true. That's true.
Or another character death. But realistically, I have no idea, unless it's something like Skeletor gets both halves of the sword, it takes over Castle Grayskull. It could be any number of things.
We kind of already know that a little bit because the Revelation toy line spoiled Skelegod, who he has the power sword. He has the H on his chest like He-Man does.
So do they come together?
that that was a theory that I had in first seeing this figure.
I think a big swing could be that He-Man gets teleported to Earth, and it leads us into the Dolph Lundgren canon film, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
To Earth. It was like, it was a chicken shop, and then Courtney Cox is there. Wildor.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. Put him in canon.
Oh, please! I don't need Gwildor. Even though again, the was it 87 Masters of the Universe movie with Dolph Lundgren is fun. But even as a kid, it was just like, oh, they're gonna be on Earth the whole time. Like, what the heck? I want to see Grayskull. I want to be on Eternia. It was such a cheap move by Orion. It was Orion Pictures, wasn't it?
Canon, I think, made it.
Was it Canon? I thought it was Orion.
I think so.
But Canon's like one of those like 80s things. But one of those big disappointments that geeks, especially kid geeks, had, where your thing finally gets to be a movie and you get to go see this movie for this thing you like, and they just kind of went cheap with it. Another one, even though I
don't understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, Green Lantern. There you go. but like Super Mario Brothers, the movie, like when you're like,
it's really bizarre.
Super Mario is the game, and you go see the movie, it's like, huh? Like,
trash. Why are they living in trash land?
Yeah, just like, oh, I guess. And then you get so excited when they have the little wind up bomb, like, oh, there's something I know. But again, it's just you're a kid, so it's just like, well, we got a movie.
People say they love that movie. I don't know how.
Super Mario Brothers movie is, I appreciate it for what it was, in the sense that, you had the Mario Brothers cartoon hour show or whatever when you had the live.
I love that show.
Same here. Loved it.
That Blue Albano, yeah.
Yep. And for me as a toy geek, even a young toy geek, the movie gave us our first Mario and Luigi action figures. So that to me is always why the Super Mario Brothers movie is a special place in my heart, because that was like, okay, I finally have a Mario action figure that I could play with my other characters. I can have Mario go to battle with Batman and Peter Venkman and Michelangelo. Like, having that was such a big deal. And that's why I still appreciate Super Mario Brothers. Sorry, Green Lantern had horrible figures for that movie.
And it killed the animated series, which is fantastic. If you haven't seen Green Lantern the animated series, it is a wonderful show. I highly recommend it. But thanks to these toys, it crushed the show, because the only way the show would survive is if they put toys on the shelf. And Walmart was like, we have so many Green Lantern toys sitting in a bin that we can't get rid of. So no, we don't want your toys. So they canceled the show.
Again, nobody wanted the Green Lantern toys because they were bad toys.
Right.
And I think Scott Neitlich ran that toy line. I think it was a miss, because those little, but that was kind of across the board. Those little 4-inch figures were trash compared to Marvel Universe figures, 3 3/4 inch Hasbro was doing. And then the Movie Masters figures were also kind of lesser than figures compared to what Hasbro was doing with Black Series and Marvel Legends. So
I do like this little guy. I do like him. The sort of basic.
Really bugged me, because the hands were too big, and again, comparing it to Marvel Universe figures, 3 3/4 inch, more articulation, better scaled than those Green Lantern figures. They were really frustrating.
Yeah. At least he fits in the MTV7 perfectly.
But Great Gambino, I actually love that movie, but it doesn't feel like Masters. Again, I like the Masters of the Universe Dolph Lundgren movie, just for it is its own thing. It doesn't sully any of the other Masters lore for me. It's its own thing, and I think it's easy and fun in its own way. Especially when you have Principal Strickland, right, from Back to the Future, is in that one. Anyway, it's been a minute since I've seen it. Hung Wen says that there's an edit fan trailer of the live action movie using Revelation sounds. The trailer is awesome, so I'll have to check that out.
That sounds cool.
Scott D says, you guys all excited for Snake Eyes coming out later this month? I am not excited at all. That trailer was awful. Every time they show a clip from it, I'm not feeling it.
The new trailer they show him with the mask.
Okay. Were you any more excited?
Oh no.
Okay.
No. Because they played it like right before the Master of Kung Fu, the Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings trailer. I'm like, oh well, I mean, if I'm gonna watch one, it'll be the Marvel one. Not yeah.
Skeletor rules that movie, so much cooler than it's Frank Langella, right? Plays Skeletor in that movie. I think they did a great job. There are good things in the Masters of the Universe Dolph Lundgren movie. There are. I do think there are. Can't be more pumped for the series. I agree. Eat lead, slackers. That's my problem with Snake Eyes. It just looks very generic, and to me, it didn't lean into the toys and the real American hero. But again, I know I said I don't prejudge till I see it. Don't hate till I see it. So I will hold out. But again, the trailer is supposed to entice me to want to see it. The MOTU Revelation stuff has enticed me. I'm like, oh, this looks like a lot of fun. I want to see this. Versus the Snake Eyes stuff, like, I'm not feeling it.
Right. You know what I'm fired up for?
What?
Jungle Cruise.
You know, it looks fun. It does.
I didn't care. I didn't give a rip about Jungle Cruise until the latest trailer where it just looks like The Mummy or Pirates of the Caribbean. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'll go watch that.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's an endearing quality about The Rock where it's like Jumanji. I freaking love Jumanji.
I need to see the second one still.
The second new one is awesome. It's one of Zach's favorite movies, so we watched it a lot.
Okay.
But the Jack Black, Kevin Hart, The Rock, and Karen Gillan. Just their charisma and everything, just a lot of fun. And again, there's a reboot of a beloved Robin Williams film that is completely different, but it's still a fun movie. It
still has the same spirit.
Yeah. And I think Adam Seiberg says Scott Knight blames the toilet problems on the poor reception movie. I disagree, because I went excited to pick up the toys before the movie came out, and I was like, these are a disappointment, especially when Batman I thought had pretty decent toys. The Movie Masters toys, even though they kind of pale in comparison to stuff that's being released for movies today. Love the Batman toys for Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises, and the Green Lantern toys were just kind of half-baked. They were 80% there for me.
Right.
That's my thoughts there.
Which is the same as the movie. They didn't finish the movie. They balked on it. I have this book. It'll probably knock things down if I try to take it out, but it's the art of the movie. And when you read through it, you're like, oh, there's these huge battle scenes that got taken out. And it's just like super disappointing. And that movie should have been Guardians of the Galaxy before Guardians of the Galaxy.
I agree. Scott D has a great call out here. The Rock showed his cruise the backside of water. Did we see that in the trailer? Like, it has to be in the movie, right?
Yes, I think it's in the trailer.
Okay.
For
sure. I remember when did they first start doing that joke? Because we would go to Disneyland every year, and there was just that moment when the backside of water joke happened. I remember my dad, Jack, like it cracked up so much the first time he heard the backside of water joke. It had to been in the 90s, right? When they started doing the backside.
It's been a while. They have merch now where you can get a water bottle, like a sippy sort of travel mug. It's clear, and imprinted on the inside, it says the backside of water, so you can see it through the water into the other side. It's a good joke. It's also the name of a podcast I listen to.
Oh, really?
There's a podcast called The Backside of Water, and they do like deep dives on behind the scenes of how Disney attractions were created and the different changes that went through before they became the rides we know now.
That's awesome. I love that. I've always been Disneyland specifically, like Disney World's fine, but Disneyland, being a SoCal kid, going this every year since I was like 3 years old. I have such a connection to the history of Disneyland, to growing up through its different phases. And again, it'd be cool. Did the Backside of Water do a story about the origination of the Backside of Water joke? Because it's one of those.
I don't know.
In my brain when that joke landed, or at least the first time we heard that joke. And again, I just remember my dad. It's such an ultimate dad joke that it just cracked up at such a level that it's still seared in my brain to this day. The laughing at the Backside of Water joke had it in like early 90s.
Yeah, since our last recording, I did visit Disneyland.
I saw. Jealous. Stop it. Why?
I got this one because the Mace Windu's had been retired. But
you never got the Mace Windu? So that's the
I never got them.
Right?
Yeah, this is Rey Skywalker.
No.
It doesn't flip like in the movie, but it's cool. I love it. It's like 3 or 4 pounds.
Pop says he got his scare glow yesterday. Not as useful as a flashlight, but still glows. It is one of the most glowy action figures I have ever owned. And I have Ecto Glow. I have Swamp Thing Glow figures. I have so many glow in the dark figures. The new
what was the Tron one you got?
That is a black light glow.
Yeah.
But the MOTU Origins Scare Glow is the most glow in the dark figure I have ever owned.
Oh, that's cool.
Anywho.
And that'll be up tomorrow, you said?
What?
You said you're doing...
Oh, tomorrow is the Revelation figure. So tomorrow, my review of all of the MOTU Revelation figures. I've already done Battle Cat, and the next video will be all of the rest of the figures from Wave 1.
Oh my gosh. Stephen Root is playing Cringer in Battle Cat.
Love it.
Yeah. Milton from Office Space is so good.
Since starting working at Disney, usually I've gone at minimum once a year to Disney World. This is by far the longest stretch not going. I've been since Disney. I have not been to Disneyland in a while. It's been, I think the last time I went was when you got Colleen and I in 2008 or 9. It's been a long time since I've been to Disneyland.
So that means the kids have never gone.
The kids have never gone. But the thing is, like, young kids, 2, 3, 4-year-old kids, they're not built for Disneyland.
I don't know.
So now that Zach's 7 and Alex is 3, we're getting to that point of, okay, it's time for Disneyland experience. Because for me, I didn't start enjoying Disneyland until I was about 5 years old. When I was younger, it was just too hot. I was just miserable, and it was just too much in one day. But there's this, to me at least, there's this point where kids can handle being in a theme park all day long.
Right.
That's the.
You need to get a hotel at the resort. Spend 3 days. I would say 3 days. Take it easy. You don't have to walk the tram route or do any of that stuff. You got to go to Galaxy's Edge. You got to go.
I know. I will go.
It's my favorite thing. I love it so much.
We have aspirations and plans. No reason they won't happen. Okay. Our last bits here for MOTU. I did want to talk about Loki before the night is over. Mark Hamill is on the Tonight Show tonight. And as always, Mark Hamill is pithy and funny. So he posted this fun picture of Skeletor snuggled up, ready to watch Fallon. Show. So tonight on the Tonight Show, which it's 11:30 or 11:31 or whatever, there will be a new clip shown But what's great is if you follow the Tonight Show on YouTube, they usually post the clips the next day. But Mark Hamill will be on the show and talking about MOTU Revelations or Revelation and showing a new clip. So that should be good. And then Kevin Smith shared that it'll be featured on the next issue of SFX. Even though if you quick glance, it looks like sex.
Just like the Lion King.
Just like the Lion King. So beyond, people buy magazines anymore? I don't know. I haven't gotten a magazine ever, but I guess. Dude,
a couple weeks ago, I got a Star Wars Insider in the mail. Stevie subscribed me to it for my birthday.
That's awesome.
And I gotta tell you, I loved it.
That's awesome.
It's great to hold the Star Wars Insider. Really thin. Not a whole lot in there, but still, like, it's got Grogu on the cover. It's like a painting. It looks, oh man, I felt like I was in the dark times again. It felt like 1995,
pre-internet. J-Mac, this is one of the things that I must do with Zach and Alex. Just got back from Alex Edge, and me and the boy built a saber. Great dad memories.
That's. So a couple years ago, Stevie, for her birthday, we take her to Disneyland every year, me and my sister, and we go have character breakfast and do it all up. And we had made it so we got tickets to everything or reservations for the cantina, for building her a saber and stuff. And we got on to Rise of the Resistance. I went into with her to build the saber, and I got like super teary-eyed. Aww. It is so awesome, dude. It's really well done.
I've been spoiled. I know what the experience is like.
It's different when you're in the room.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. It's nuts.
But even just seeing a video of it, like, I'm in. Like, I'm so in on 100% level. Like, even when Disney first started doing the build your own lightsaber, I freaking love that, even though it was like plastic and just was essentially a toy lightsaber.
Yeah.
But even that very simple experience was like, this is so cool. So like making a real light up metal lightsaber, absolutely over the moon. I can't wait to experience that, and then to share it with my sons. 100%. So that it will happen. It will absolutely happen. No doubt about that. For all of us, even though it'll probably cost like $1,000 by the time it's
like 200. It's for those. It's like 200.
So for three of us, that's $600. I'm sure we'll want to build a droid too. So again, Disney knows how to freaking take a vacuum and suck all of the money out of my pockets. But
I have 3 lightsabers. Stevie built her own. She got the Princess Leia one, and then we also built a droid. So we've dropped a fair amount of money, even though you know the story of my Obi-Wan.
I don't want to hear about your Obi-Wan hilt story, because you want to know why? Because you promised me. You promised me similar levels of fortune, and
didn't have what you wanted.
Me, and it didn't happen. It's fine. It's fine. Anyways, for those that don't know, Ralph was a longtime employee of the Disneyland resort, and could have gotten a really cool, cheap, broken hilt, meaning it just didn't work or something, but still looked really dope. And he promised me it. He said, "Jay, I promise you, ain't of death, I will get you a hilt." And he didn't. So I'm not upset about it or anything.
I'm not giving you any of mine. I like mine.
You guys want to do the Star Wars or Starship Cruise thing in Florida, the immersive Star Wars hotel? I'm looking forward to it, trying someday, but it's going to be so expensive. It's kind of one of those things where you have to pick and choose. Apparently that's where the real lightsaber thing is going to be, right? With the hilt, right? The lightsaber that comes out of the hilt. So I would love to experience it, but that's the thing with the Disney World Resort, is you're dropping like $10,000 for a family of 4 to have like a week there. It's a lot versus one. I have a much stronger connection to Disneyland, And I've been to both, and maybe it is I'm biased to Disneyland, but there is magic at Disneyland that Disney World does not have for me. And it's, I think, just because of the history of the park. Walt Disney their fingerprints are there. And I just, the vibe of it just has more. It's like when you buy a vintage guitar or something like that, it just has mojo that the Disney World parks just don't have. It doesn't have the same level of magic that Disneyland have. That's my personal opinion. Even though Disney World is much bigger, has more things, Disneyland is more magical to me. Trust me, Scott. I've Ralph and his friends have afforded my family a few times of a very discounted Disneyland experience. But anyway, all right. Last bit of things to talk about, because we need to talk about Loki. We need to talk about it.
Do we?
Well, here's the thing. I know you are a Marvel hater. I am not.
It's not a. I mean, hey, listen. I went and I saw Black Widow in the theater. I'm still going to see every single movie. There isn't a single Marvel movie I haven't seen in the theater, with the exception of Spider-Man: Homecoming. Mm-hmm. Somehow that one we just didn't see, but I just am like, so I need something new.
This was posted on Slate.com. This was the title. I thought it was a very clickbaity title. The Loki finale proves Marvel's TV shows are already in a rut. The series remade a charming villain as dull, passive hero. I don't agree. Loki, to me, was my favorite of these shows so far. And there may be some recency bias, but I thought the music was awesome. I thought the design was great. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed the ride. Is there a problem where every TV series is just setting up a movie or something else? Absolutely.
Oh my God, Black Widow. Black Widow was a movie just to set up someone being in a show.
I have not seen Black Widow yet, but I really liked it. I really liked this series. It had twists, it had reveals, and even if the Kang reveal was a bit spoiled, I was not aware of the casting spoiler for that. So I kind of was in blind there, and I liked the reveal. But even though it's not Kang the Conqueror, it's I guess the good Kang or whatever that we saw at the end of this series. But still, I really enjoyed the series. But Ralph, it seems like your haterade for Marvel continues.
My problem with each of the Marvel series are the finale episodes.
And this is what this article says: like the finales, and what I've seen, the finales disappoint. But what about this? Because if WandaVision, I think it was the big red sky
fighting in a swirly bunch of clouds.
So that's there.
And Loki got rid of their swirly bunch of clouds in the penultimate episode, which was nice. And then the Falcon Winter Soldier. I don't know if we talked about this, that I love the intricacies of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. I liked that it was a more grounded movie or show, and I liked that the messages that they were conveying didn't hit you over the head until that finale, when Sam has a speech talking straight to senators and telling senators that they need to make the world better. And it was like, I already got this from the show. Stop spoon feeding me this information. I understood. But I guess it's made for kids, so maybe they need to know. I don't know. Loki is my favorite of the three. I just didn't care for the performance of the are we saying Kang?
It is really Kang, yeah. I
just don't know if people haven't watched the show.
Oh,
but the thing is, I only know Kang because I have some sort of knowledge of the history of Marvel, and so it's not like very super exciting to me. and I just felt like the performance was too performancy. I feel like there was too
Really?
many choices that were sort of. It reminded me of when Johnny Depp played Willy Wonka. Nobody said, "Hey, listen, we understand going over the top, but you're making way too many choices." I didn't care for the performance.
Interesting. You are not alone. That I think Dan Murrell, I watched his review. I watched a few reviews, and his had a similar, almost exactly the same opinion as you. And I should get his name.
Maybe if Jonathan Morgan, so the actor you're talking about.
Yes, he's. I thought he did amazing in Lovecraft Country.
Right.
I was really excited to see him here, and I thought I enjoyed it. But I'm not a movie critic. I'm not a TV critic. And so I'm easily pleased. But it's interesting to hear you say a similar opinion as somebody that is a movie and TV critic.
And it was just a bit too much. It's that thing of, he jumps up on the table, and it's like, okay, I feel like that was a choice made in the moment, and isn't that crazy? And then he's like leaning way down on the desk and doing stuff, and I'm like, isn't that crazy? It's like too many things for me. I really like the story. I like that even though we did have a fight, a duel in the finale, I did like that it made sense why they were fighting, and I like the motivation behind the fighting. I like the story a lot.
Yeah,
just the performance just kind of took me out of everything.
Interesting.
Because I liked everything that Kang was proposing and sort of luring him into this, and like, do I trust him? No, I don't even know if I trusted Loki. Sure. Like, it's one of those, like, I didn't trust anybody. And I thought it was all interesting, but the performance just took me out of the story.
Yeah, for me,
too much.
This is where it kind of, I know you mentioned Willy Wonka, but he seemed like I left alone for a long time. The Willy Wonka comparison seems appropriate. That's where it kind of made sense to me, because if he had been there for eons, for all we know, he's gonna be a bit eccentric, and that it didn't throw me off at all. I was just like, okay, I'm watching this and I want to see how this plays out. If there was,
I could almost, like, if there was a South Park episode this week, you would see Trey Parker's version of this, and it would be nuts.
Yeah, sure.
Like, I just feel like there was something about it that just was so cartoony, and the show up until this point was pretty grounded. Like, I mean, there's weird stuff like, alligator Loki and the animated time, Miss Minute or whatever her name is. Like, there is stuff in there, but I felt like this was just like, okay, this is too cartoony for me.
But what about the actual cartoon, Miss Minutes? I love this idea by Scott. Near in the parks is Disney as holograms interacting with people. That'd be fun. Amazing.
Yeah.
And yes, Kang is apparently next to Ant-Man and Wasp, Spider-Man, Star Strange 2, like Doctor Strange in what is it, Multiverse of Madness. So clearly, this is setting up that
it's like Phase 4's Thanos. It's like he's got variants, and they're all nuts. So it'll be interesting to see the performances of different types of variants, which is kind of cool. But I just felt like this was a little too goofy. Like, right off the bat is a little too much.
What about this from Nick Dillinger here? I didn't love Thanos in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Getting a more theatrical Kang now means that we'll probably get a more threatening Kang when he puts on the full suit. So, is this a situation where this is a version of Kang, and then once we get to Kang the Conqueror or whatever more threatening version of the character, will you forgive the performance in this finale?
I don't know if I'll forgive it, but I'm interested to see where it goes. The fact that he mentions that there's other variants of him, and watching this performance leads me to believe that he is going to do vastly different performances for the different
Mm-hmm.
Kangs, which I'm very interested in seeing. I just feel like coming out of the gate, maybe it's a bit too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're setting up a personality you're not going to forget, so that by the time you see the next one, you could tell it's a different one, then that makes sense. But as of right now, because I just literally watched it right before we sat down and recorded, I'm like a little bit thrown off by the performance. So I'm interested in seeing more and the different variants. I think this was kind of setting up the fact that this is one personality. So by the time we see the second one, we could tell it's a completely different person. So we'll see. Like I said, I like the show. I like the story. It's just the thing that took me out of it. The performance took me out of it.
Josh says they didn't catch how the Kang statue was in the end credits the whole time for me. So the end credit Kang, he's there because Loki has been put into a different version, I would assume, of these now fully splitted versions. Says Mobius didn't know who he was. But the first time we saw it was the Timekeepers or whatever. It wasn't Kang. At least that's what I thought. I have to go back and watch. Maybe it was the case. But it seemed like this is now a variant, and maybe it is Kang the Conqueror. Who knows what version of Kang that is? But still, thoughts here on it setting up What If with all these multiverse versions. Looking forward to it a lot. Animation looks cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too.
SP Sounds feels similar. Let's see. Comics 1017. Did we all know it was going to be Kang by episode 2? I mean, I did, and I assumed all comic nerds did. The Timekeepers always kind of looked a bit like Kang, yeah? Possibly. I stayed super spoiler free. Honestly, the whole time I thought it was just going to be Loki at the end.
That's kind of what I thought too.
Just the way, just every time the bad was still a Loki or something, I just felt like the ultimate conclusion would be that it would be some old Loki in there at the end. But from a comic perspective, it did make more sense for it to be King. But I definitely thought it was just going to be another Loki.
But as far as the 3 series goes, like, I'm glad that this one ended with mostly a conversation. Like, that's my big problem with WandaVision, was that I liked the Vision on Vision conversation more than the Scarlet Witch fighting Agatha. So
Luke says, do you think Loki will return? Well, that was kind of, it's not even really an end credit scene. It was just like a little stamp on Boulder saying it's going to return for season 2. So unlike the other 2 series that we've gotten, WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki will have a season 2, which that at least let me feel a little more comfortable with the ending, because it was very much an unresolved ending.
Yeah.
So cliffhanger. I was like, super cliffhanger, like really no resolution. And so much so that I was like, well, this is kind of a one-off and it's only going to set up the movies. I was a little bit disappointed, but then there's going to be a season 2. I was like, okay, we'll continue with this story. That had me more satisfied than I was initially once it kind of cut to the credit scene for me personally.
Yeah. Cool. I'm excited for more.
But overall, I don't share the same sentiment as Karen from Slate.com. I understand the frustration that everything seems to have to set up the next thing, which at least with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, generally they complete the story that was set up in the movie, and then and there's like an end credit scene or something that's like, oh, okay, this is a bigger thing. I mean, there's little clues or little things throughout that show or kind of set up the more expanded universe or movies that come down the line. The TV shows are very much in service to a bigger story, and it's a hard thread to needle, or needle to thread. Backwards there. That really they've done. Marvel, I think, has done a pretty good job considering the multitude of movies they've have released. But it's still it is a hard thing to accomplish.
Yeah. Cool.
But Nick, I want to close here. Battle of New York: Infinity War Loki had a lot of character growth. The most surprising thing about the series is how quickly Loki went from profound character growth that made him less selfish. I really liked his art.
Yeah.
It showed him. It showed that moment when he saw the Infinity Stones, like all these everyone's just sitting in the guy's drawer and it didn't matter. Like that completely changed his perspective and his outlook on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I never found Loki terribly interesting until the show. Like, I thought it was cool, and it was always fun that, you know, he would always be on Thor's side, and then at the end, of course, he betrays him.
Exactly.
Like, that's fun. But this is the first time we actually get to see into him. I think, like in Thor: Dark World, when he finds out he's a frost giant or whatever. I don't know. It's been a long time.
Frost giant, yeah.
But that was like kind of the most we have from him. Like, oh, he's not really Odin's son, or he's half, yeah,
or half.
They're half brothers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found this very, very interesting, and I think it's cool that this show went for a sci-fi route for a character that's based on magic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely prefer sci-fi over fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a kind of a nice touch. And then to kind of create the retro feel and look of the show,
yes,
also was very fun. I
love that look to it. Them using that hotel in Atlanta, and again, you can go there. I think it's a Marriott in downtown Atlanta.
Yeah, you told it. I think you mentioned that on the show before.
I share it before, and it is like, say for a few little adjustments, the when you walk into it, it was one of the most. And again, downtown Atlanta's the worst. The way they designed it and they basically made these little sky walkways to connect the different buildings so you wouldn't have to walk street level in Atlanta. It is one of the worst downtowns I've ever experienced in my life. No offense to the Atlanteans out there. But that building, and there's an architect that's pretty famous that in a bunch of buildings in Atlanta, but that one specifically that they used for this movie, it was one of I've seen some really cool things in my life, but just a hotel walking into and just having this amazing atrium kind of inside of it, it's amazing. It's a sight to behold, and it's so mundane that it's a hotel. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But the how they use it as the TVA was really, really cool. Really, really, really cool. Phineas says probably best acting performance at MCU for Hiddleston. I agree. I thought it was a really compelling story that he had, and then just kind of the weird kind of interplay where, of course, Loki never loved anyone except for himself, like a female version of himself.
Right.
I thought was really fun. But that kind of was bummed that she ended up not like caring about him as much as he cared about her. But
well, I don't even know if that's the case, because I mean, how many times have we seen Loki turn on people?
Sure.
And like I told Stevie, I said, I don't trust him either. When they kissed, I assumed that he was going to stab her then and there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, because that's Loki.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out he was really broken down by that first episode when they showed him all the footage and took the power out of his hands with the neck collar and stuff. That, you know, it's kind of nice to see him grow as a person throughout the series.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I liked it. Like I said, like the series. Love Owen Wilson. Have since Bottle Rocket. He's so good in the show.
I'm kind of bummed he didn't get to ride his jet ski. I assume he'll have it at some point, but there was a lot of like fan edit pictures and stuff of him like with Loki and Sylvie on a jet ski riding it or whatever. Like, it needs
season 2,
happen, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it
season
needs
2
to happen. 100% it needs to happen. I did want to get some pictures here of this hotel, because it just to show you that it does look like this in real life. And I was just blown away by it on so many levels. But anyway, let me pull these up here, actually. And I probably should check out the name of it. I think it's the Marriott, downtown Atlanta Marriott. But show and find it. Go ahead, vamp for me for a second.
All right. So I have nothing. I've talked all I could. I did see Black Widow, and I have thoughts on Black Widow, but
Yeah, but you're such a
it should have been made. It should have been made in 2017. That's when the movie takes place. But it feels like such an afterthought, and I feel like it may not be worth the weight of the COVID year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's cool.
So here's the elevator shaft, like when you walk into it. Again, just blew my mind. I was just like, again, you have to walk through these hotels if you're just like walking around downtown Atlanta. And this is one of the stops where I was staying in a Hilton, I think. And I was just like, what is this place? This is insane. And you can, like, my wife, if she's in the chat, like, it just, I don't know why, it just blew my mind, the structure. So them using it in the show, I thought was really, really cool. They definitely use this one. Hold on. Yeah. This is just me filming it on my phone. But it was such an insane place. So if you're ever in Atlanta, definitely check it out. I think it's the Downtown Marriott Hotel in Atlanta, but unreal. Yeah, Colin can confirm this reaction. Yeah, it was just, again, you know, it's just one of those things where famous locations, right? The Statue of Liberty or Empire State Building or I don't know. And, for my work, I travel a lot, or at least before pandemic, I used to travel a lot and got to see a lot of cool places. But this just, when you walk into a thing and didn't expect, like, I just walked in that place, no idea what it was, and it blew my mind. So even though you would think a lot of it's digital creation, but just like all the levels, like, no, it's like that in real life. Anywho. All right. I think that's it for this week's Screen Geeks.
Yeah.
It was a great time. It's good to be back. Again, tomorrow on the channel, my review of Masterverse Revelation Wave 1 figures will drop, so be on the lookout for that. And on Sunday, John and I will be rocking on Toy Geeks, talking about the latest toy news. Again, tomorrow, Mattel Creations is supposed to have a He-Man Masters of the Universe drop. Don't know if it'll be Revelation related, but whenever that hits, maybe I'll do a short video about it tomorrow if it's like super duper big. But at the very least, John and I will be talking about it on Toy Geeks on Sunday at 9 o'clock. Oh, that's right. I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. Maybe I'm not going to be doing it. I just realized that now, Colleen. You are correct. Maybe we'll do Monday. I don't know. I'm bad at scheduling my life. But until next time, maybe I think we'll be home by 9 o'clock, Colleen, hopefully. I'm going to a Padre game in D.C. But anywho, we will see you all next time. Until then, hasta luego and goodbye.
Bye.